is poverty? How do you define it? We can measure it, we can't. So that's the first question. So we're going to start on this end for this question, and then when you're done, you can hand it to the next person. And
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
What is poverty? How can we define it? Well, I looked it up in the dictionary, asked a question, and I came to this conclusion. Poverty is when you cannot afford to take care of your quality of life. When you cannot meet your basic needs. But the thing about it is that all of us are going in different economic walks of life. Poverty is me. Okay? Because if you're not part of the elites, pretty much you're in poverty. If you're not have control of your economic status, you're pretty much in poverty. Now we've been blessed much to not to be homeless and to have food in our stomachs. But a lot of us, as we begin older walks in life, we cannot afford what, quote unquote, supposed to be. Able to keep a roof over our head. We can't afford to put food in our stomach. We can't afford to take care of our medical needs. Lord forbid if we get sick. And to me, that's poverty. Thank you.
Amen.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
I want to add on to what Erma was saying. You don't know poverty, I know poverty. It's different. And it's going to be different for different groups of people. And I think that one of the things you said earlier, people can't afford to eat. They can't afford to live what they want to live. And I go one step further and say people can't eat. People can't live anywhere sometimes. People cannot get medical care. And even though I am a professional, because I'm not protected by a corporation, I can't get medical care unless I pay more than I can afford. And consequently, it may mean I can't get it at all. So poverty is much more pervasive than it ever was before. And it's taking on, it has a different face than it ever had before. But the point is, it is continuing to grow, and it is continuing to be insidious. And the fact that we have children, who are the victims of all of the trickle down. Poverty trickles down, from the haves to the not-haves. Yeah. And the people who have the least are the children and the elderly. And I know I spend my time working with STOP, which is a senior organization, which helps to coordinate all of the seniors throughout the different senior organizations, because it is political after all. Yeah. And I work with two organizations. One is STOP, one is Protestants for the Common Good. Right. And we talk about justice, social justice. And once everyone understands, at least at the senior level, we're trying to make them understand that one senior equals one vote. And we want everyone to have a STOP card, just like you have an AARP card. And when we get that collective message out, maybe people will start to take note, the ones who have the control over the goods and the services that we have to have every day. So that's what, I'm doing sitting at this table.
Thank you.
Looks like the court gets all the way down here. Thank you all for having me, and again, I'll echo the Happy New Year. Let me first say, I didn't grow up in poverty. I didn't grow up rich either. But I've learned what I am talking about because I've been involved for the past 35 years of working with kids and families up in the Cabrini Green area and learning from poverty through their eyes. And as I've worked directly in leading a volunteer-based tutor mentor program, I've been reading many different articles every year that help me understand poverty from the perspective of what a lot of other people have come to understand poverty. Just today I pulled off this report right here, which is a cost of poverty study that's talking about Ontario, Canada, but if we read it, it would be the same for Chicago. And so when I talk about poverty, one of the things I've learned is in these cost of poverty studies, there's a difference between being poor and being in poverty. There's a lot of poor people, but in a lot of places where people are poor, the lifelines and the things that help you move from being poor or take care of your needs are in place. And so the being poor is not a loss of hope or hopelessness. On the other hand, one of the books that I read about 10 years ago was titled American Apartheid. It's by Douglas Massey and Nancy Denton. And they talked about segments of our big cities where being poor and being isolated and being segregated created a lack of access to the different resources that other people might have to help them overcome being poor. And that's where poverty creates a sense of hopelessness, where in another report that I just read this week about young people who don't believe they're going to be alive when they're age 20, and therefore their behaviors are much more destructive to themselves and to the community than other young people who might not. When I talk today, so when I talk about being poor and being in poverty, the Tutor middle program I lead is called Cabrini Connections. Over the years of doing this, I began to network with other people who also operated Tutor middle programs. And for my advertising jobs at Montgomery Ward, I understand that in order to support 400 stores all over the country, we had to provide advertising every day to try to get customers to come to those stores. And we did that, and we spent about $250 million a year to do that. That was 20 years ago. Well, if you take that kind of thinking into what we now call the Tutor Middle Connection, we map where poverty is. On this map, you can come up and look at it later, or you can go to our websites. The shaded areas, the reds and the blues, are the highest concentrations of poverty in the city of Chicago. Where we are right now, we're like an island surrounded by high concentrations of poverty. And every neighborhood on this map needs a whole range of services for little kids and middle kids and older kids and adults and seniors that should be the best available in the world. It's not good enough to have a few things in one part of the city and not have those same things in another part of the city. So what we've been doing is, where is poverty? How can we get people to look at this map? And then how can we get more people every day to be reading the research, talking to each other, learning from each other, so that the actions begin to do the things that would provide the programs and the resources and the services that would make being poor not being hopeless.